Share the verse of the day with you today. It's Matthew 5:16. Let's read it. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. So some context here is that Jesus is just getting warmed up on his Sermon on the Mount, and he's framing this idea of light through the lens of obedience. A couple of immediate takeaways for me is, number one, for any light to stay on, it's got to remain connected to a source. In this particular instance of light, Jesus is our power source, but he's also the actual light that's shining through us. So we're simultaneously called to stay connected to the source, but then also be the conduit that the light shines through. Let me illustrate the importance of this. My friend is a pilot, and he says when you fly at night, it's pretty hard to see because it's dark outside. So what airports have done is they've placed a 30,000 lumen light on top of the airport towers, and it shines in very specific sequences, letting the pilots know this is an airport, this is a destination. It's the same way with our walks. As the world gets darker and darker, sometimes it's hard for people to see the destination, to keep their perspective on heaven. And so as believers, we're called to share that light, to show them the path, to show them the way. And I'm reminded of one of the best ways to do that. It's the example of Moses. He knew how to stay connected to God.
For things that are seen are transient, but things that are unseen are eternal. The Apostle Paul has been trying to convince the Corinthians, to whom he's writing, that the gospel of Jesus he taught them has completely transformed their lives. And he's doing this because the Corinthians have started following false teachers. And these false teachers claimed to have a more powerful and authoritative way of understanding the Bible than Paul had given them in the past. Like the Corinthians, we don't often feel like we are being transformed into the glory of Jesus. So sometimes we'd rather just take our transformation into our own hands because we can see rules, obey commands, and measure habits. I mean, surely these false teachers were onto something. I can see my transformation happening in real time when I discipline myself to follow rules. It's much harder to see the invisible transformation power of Jesus working graciously behind the scenes in my life. But that's Paul's point in our verse today. What is seen is transient. It's passing away. It's fading. It won't last. Any kind of life change we try to accomplish ourselves won't stick. And haven't you experienced that? You form a new habit only to realize you haven't changed your heart. You stopped one sin only to start another. But what is unseen is eternal. The transformation and life-giving power that Jesus works in our hearts simply through faith in him will never fade away. His glory in our lives will only grow more and more, and that's because Jesus is the one doing the transforming, not us. So today, don't try to earn your transformation by doing what can be seen, because it will pass away. Instead, throw your trust on the one who is unseen, because his transformation is eternal. And if you want to explore this passage in more depth, we've put together an 8-day reading plan that you can start today on the next screen.
SC Worship, and today we are reading out of Lamentations chapter 3, verses 25 and 26. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. The prophet Jeremiah is writing these verses in the midst of the destruction of Jerusalem and its temple. He is lamenting, hence the name of this book, he's lamenting this massive sorrow. Why is waiting such a struggle for us? The world has us convinced that the waiting is unproductive, that if we're not putting our hands to the plow, doing things for ourselves and by ourselves, that we aren't being effective. But Jeremiah reminds us in the middle of what he's going through, not even looking back on hindsight, but in the midst of his trial, that the waiting is a good thing. And it's actually because we aren't doing anything, but God is. We begin to relinquish the control we so desperately crave when we wait on a good God. This is one of the most important applications of our walk with the Lord, albeit one of the most challenging. Recognizing that the waiting, it's not a punishment, but it's an opportunity for us to put our faith in his goodness, in his character, and in his timing. The waiting is not useless, but actually it allows us to seek him with full faith, which I like to call God's love language, our faith, with full faith that he hears us from heaven and that he is turning things around for our good. So today, maybe you find yourself at a loss for hope for some things in your life. Maybe the waiting has looked longer than you would have anticipated and you're just losing heart. But could I encourage you, do not wait in sorrow in your own strength, but begin to rekindle the flame of hope as you wait on the Lord. I challenge you, seek Him with full assurance that He is good, and just watch how the Lord will reveal Himself to you.